Hey everyone, it is time for takeaways from week 3, which was chapter 3 of the 15 Laws of Growth by John Maxwell. Now, I just want to say this is not the first time I've read this book. It's not the second time I've read this book. I don't know how many times I've read through this book. And the beauty of reading through a book again is sometimes you get different takeaways. But this week, I did not get a new takeaway. This chapter is about seeing the value in yourself. And honestly, that has been something that has not always been easy for me. I haven't always had great self-esteem or good self-esteem, and I haven't always fully seen the value in myself. However, chapter 3 is the reason why, and chapter 3 and the 10 of you who watch my videos are the reason why I quit my job last summer. So to give you a little bit of backstory for those of you who maybe don't know me very well, I was hired into a specific job, obviously at a specific pay rate, where I had a combination, basically 50-50 split of teaching duties and accreditation administrative duties for the program. I was not the accreditation director. I did not do all of accreditation. I just had pieces of the accreditation process. And at the end of my first year, they renegotiate workloads and they decreased the amount of time that I had for those administrative duties. But that decrease was a reasonable decrease. It really decreased down to about the amount of time it took to do the job I was doing. Nothing else changed. My pay didn't change. My work schedule didn't change. Just a slight decrease in the amount of time allocated to administration versus the amount of time teaching. Now, into the second school year, so going into my third year, I have been trying to remember if my accreditation time got decreased again. If it did, it was a very small decrease. However, going into my third year, I took over all of the duties of the accreditation director. So now my job was very different from the job that I had accepted at the salary I had accepted. I had to do everything related to accreditation. And again, in that same amount or maybe slightly less time than I had the year before. So more things to do in a similar time frame. It was maybe doable, maybe. But again, that was the only change. My time my work year didn't change. My pay didn't change. But at the end of my third year, so looking into my fourth year, I still had all of the duties of the accreditation director. They further decreased my time allotment, but we also had accreditation review that year. So I had to write what's called a self-study, which is very detailed and comprehensive and takes a lot of time. And then we had a site visit, which again, comprehensive. They're looking at all areas of our program in person, very time consuming. And then after that accreditation site visit, they send us a report and we have to address anything that they found in it. So even though I had about the same amount of time in terms of allotment, I had way more duties to do that year. Now, the other huge thing that happened was that I was cut from a 12-month employee to a 10-month employee. So I had less working hours to get the job done. And with that cut in working months was a 1/6 cut in pay. Now, the other piece of that was, as a 12-month employee, I accrued a month of vacation each year. And I lost that, not only the ability to accrue vacation, but they actually threw half of my accrued vacation in the trash because they paid out what they would pay out and everything else they trashed. Now, when I was told that I was getting moved from a 12-month to a 10-month employee, no one told me that that was a piece of it, that I would lose all of my vacation time. So I didn't have fair warning. I didn't have the ability to use any of the vacation time, and it all just went in the trash, like my employment had been terminated, except it hadn't. Now, they did piecemeal from different places to make my total pay the same, but I was still doing 12 months worth of work, not the job I had signed up for, more responsibilities for almost the same pay. And in my opinion, and with no vacation time, still working 12 months out of the year, no vacation time. And in my opinion, if they worked that hard to find a way to keep my pay the same, I didn't understand why they didn't just keep my entire job the same. My, 12-month position with the benefits that I had. I almost quit then and there between my third and fourth years with basically no notice, because when all of that finally came out, it was late May, so the school year was already over. But knowing that I was facing that accreditation review and site visit, I knew that if I quit with no notice, all of that would get dumped onto my coworkers who hadn't, caused my pay to change, my job to look different. And it's a lot of work where they already had their workloads planned out. And so I didn't want to burn those bridges with my specific coworkers. So I didn't quit. Now I had this internal turmoil because I'm here telling, my friends and my students that they need to see the value in themselves. And if they don't see the value in themselves, it's not very likely that other people will either. And at the same time, I'm being devalued. I'm being told that my time is worth less, that I need to get more done than I could possibly get done. And I was told that indirectly told that my opinion on how long it takes to do my job counts for nothing, because I had spent 2 years telling them it can't be done in this amount of time. This is the amount of time it takes to do each piece, and this is what I need. And year after year, it was whittled down. So spring of 22, I was given my workload expectations for the 22-23 school year, where my administrative time was further cut by another 10%, where I still had all of the accreditation duties. Now, technically, I didn't have, the self-study and the site visit again, but in order to make that whole process go smoothly, you need to be working on pieces of it every single year. And a lot of that had gone to the wayside because there just wasn't time to get it done until it was crunch time and it had to get done. I was also cut from a 10-month employee to a 9-month employee, which, guess what, came with a further 1/12 pay cut. So now my pay had been cut a second time. My workload had been cut for like the fourth time, or my time allotment had been cut for about the fourth time. And again, I had the opportunity to make extra money over the summer. But when I added it up, the potential summer pay and the new salary, it was still a very sizable pay cut from what I had been hired in to do 4 years prior with less workload expectations. And I knew that I could not tell people to see the value in themselves if I was allowing other people to devalue me. So this has been my takeaway from chapter 3 for years now. I quit my job. Not everything has been super easy, right? I had some buffer money saved aside, which was fortunate. My husband has a job, which is fortunate. And then we hit a point where like the buffer money was gone. And so I have a part-time job. It's not my dream job. It's not, where I intend to live out the rest of my days. But it is so much less stressful, and I feel so much less devalued by stepping out of a situation where I was not valued. So I know that it's not everyone's story. I know not everyone can just up and quit their job. And I totally understand that. I do want to encourage you to find the value in yourself and start working towards a way that you can go somewhere where you can be valued. So that is week 3. This week we will be reading chapter 4 of John Maxwell's 15 Laws of Growth. If you read chapter 3, I would love to hear your takeaways, what you got out of it, and I would love to have you join me in reading this amazing book.